Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're going to jump in a time machine and travel back 12,000 years, right to the dawn of society as we know it. We're going to explore the huge choices our ancestors made that didn't just reshape the planet, they actually reshaped us.
I mean, think about it. How did we get here? From tiny, scattered groups of nomads to this, a world packed with cities, nations, and billions of us. Well, it wasn't some slow, gradual thing. Nope. The entire foundation of our modern world can be traced back to one single, massive environmental shift that basically set the stage for everything.
And listen, this was not some gentle spring thaw. We're talking about a seriously dramatic, even violent climate event. You had two-thirds of the polar ice caps just melting away, causing the oceans to rise 120 meters. It was a wild time of cataclysmic floods and scorching droughts that literally remade the face of the Earth, creating a brand new world for humanity to figure out. So our first chapter here, a world remade. As all that ice pulled back, these new incredibly fertile lands started popping up. And one region in particular, a place we now call the Fertile Crescent, became the cradle for the greatest revolution in human history. I mean, the speed of this change, it's just staggering. For hundreds of thousands of years, we were wanderers, and then bam, in what's really just a blink of an eye and geological time, we built civilization. And it all kicked off when some of our ancestors made a choice that would change our destiny forever. They just stopped walking. All right, section 2, the first villages. Now, the decision to stay in one place. It sounds so simple, right? But it was anything but. It brought in a whole new concept that was completely alien to the nomadic way of life, an idea that would eventually trigger the very first human wars. And here's the kicker. This is where the whole idea of private property is born. See, for nomads, the earth and everything on it belonged to everyone. A stranger was just another traveler you might share a meal with. But for settlers, well, your survival depended on your private stash of food. And all of a sudden, a stranger isn't a fellow traveler anymore, they're a potential threat. This one single idea, that this land, this grain, is mine, created this deep-seated fear of losing it all. This tension, born from the simple act of settling down, would fundamentally change how humans interact with each other forever. If you're enjoying this journey through history, give this explainer a like. It really helps the channel grow. Okay, on to our third big shift, taming the wild. So, settling down? Great. But it created a brand new headache. How do you reliably feed a growing population that isn't moving around anymore? The solution was going to be our next great revolution, taking control of the food supply itself. You know, it all started with something pretty simple. These heavy grinding stones, which you needed to make flour from wild grain, were just too big and clunky to carry around. That encouraged people to stay put. Then they started consciously picking the seeds from the best, strongest plants. And then came the real game changer, irrigation. Suddenly, you weren't at the mercy of the rain. You combine that with taming animals, and for the first time ever, humanity had a stable food supply and a massive surplus. But yeah, this newfound security, it came with a pretty hefty price tag. Living so close to animals introduced horrifying new plagues like measles and smallpox. And for the very first time, having a surplus of food created real wealth, which led to a whole new kind of competition. It wasn't just survival of the fittest anymore, it was the survival of the richest. And this inequality, plus the need to defend your land and your grain, it all fueled organized war. And the result of all this farming? Absolutely explosive. With a reliable food source, the human population just skyrocketed. We're talking going from maybe 3 million people to 100 million in just 8,000 years. In the grand scheme of our species' history, that's nothing. Our numbers multiplied by more than 30 times. It's just incredible. Subscribe for more incredible stories from the past, and hey, comment below what moment in history you'd like us to explore next. Okay, chapter 4, the rise of the city. So you've got more food and way more people. Villages get bigger, turning into towns, and then those towns swell into the very first cities. But trying to manage thousands of people all crammed together, well, that brought a whole new set of problems our ancestors had never even dreamed of. Yeah, the old ways of doing things, simple customs and traditions, just weren't going to cut it anymore. You needed formal organization. And this is where social hierarchies come from. You got a ruling class of chieftains and kings to make the big decisions, a class of priests and scribes to control all the knowledge, and then, of course, a huge labor force of farmers and workers to support the whole shebang. And of course, a setup like this needs money to run. You've got to support the city, the army, the rulers. So another new invention was needed: taxes. The chieftain required everyone to chip in, creating a system where the work of the many supported the organization and protection of the whole group.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. Chapter 5, the power of words. Think about it. How do you actually manage taxes for thousands of people? How do you keep track of trade deals or send orders across a whole kingdom? You need a technology that can beat time and distance. This was the final key. And if you're enjoying this journey through history, give this explainer a like. It really helps us create more content just like this.
You know, it's funny, we think of writing as this tool for poetry or epic stories, right? Well, that's not how it started. Not even close. Writing was born out of pure, boring administrative necessity. It was basically a spreadsheet on a clay tablet, a system of codes to record who paid what in taxes and what was in the grain silo. It was a powerful tool, but one that was reserved for a tiny elite to help the kings manage their growing power.
But as you can imagine, it didn't stay just a practical tool for long. The power to record and send information gave rulers a level of control they'd never had before. This new tool could build empires, but it could also enforce unfair laws, control entire populations, and even rewrite history to make the powerful look good. And this really gets to the heart of it, the two faces of this incredible invention. On one hand, writing had the power to share knowledge, to connect people, to liberate the human mind. But on the other hand, it also held the power to deceive, to control, and ultimately to enslave it.
So you see, 12,000 years ago, our ancestors made a fundamental trade-off. They swapped the wild freedom of nomadic life for the security of civilization. The foundations they built, of property, of hierarchy, of laws, they still define our lives today. Which leaves us with one final question to think about. What are we trading now? If you enjoyed this journey through history, give this explainer a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more. And let us know in the comments, what moment in history should we tackle next?